Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 33rd Sunday of Ordinary Time. And this is the 33rd Sunday. And so this is kind of the last time that we'll be reading Mark for the year. This will be the end of year B. We technically have one more year before we get to Advent, and that's going to be the following Sunday, where we're going to be celebrating Christ the King. The material we're going to be studying this weekend, I'm not an expert in literature of the apocalypse, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people think they're an expert in this area, and they cause a lot of fear. And so I'm going to tread lightly in this area, because what we do have is Jesus speaking about the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars are falling to the sky, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds. And so what is Jesus talking about? And we get a hint from our first reading, which is actually from Daniel. Now, if you've never read Daniel, Daniel is amazing. It's awesome. And what happens is Daniel is given a lot of foresight from the Lord, and he's speaking to a few kings. He's speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, and then his son, historically a little weird, but his son Belshazzar. And remember, Daniel is able to interpret dreams, and a lot of these dreams have to do with the fact that Babylon is going to fall, and then the Persian Medes are going to take over, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans. And if you're reading, you're looking into Daniel's visions, a lot of people think that he predicted that whole thing that's going to happen. And what's going on there is to talk about a change of a huge age, and a lot of difficult things that are going to happen in that time period, okay? So even though, as we believe as Catholics, some of this can be talking about the actual end of time, the second coming, excuse me, this is also talking about a change in the age that they're living in, which will be a huge paradigm shift. So, for example, he says, Michael, the Prince, the guardian of your people, it shall be a time unsurpassed in distress. Okay, and what some scholars think is what happens is after the Babylonians are defeated by the Persian Medes, and then the Greeks come, and this is a time really for the Jewish people which is just terrible, just absolutely horrifying. In fact, Antiochus, I think it's Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth, goes ahead and he goes into the temple and he builds a statue of Zeus in the holiest part of the temple. That's bad. Right, that's really bad. That's as bad as it can get for the people when they see a real defeat in what they consider to be the holiest of holy places. All right, that is the holiest of holy places at that point on the planet. And so these things are going to be happening, and you just have to wait for God to come and to make things better. Now, God has come after that. But Jesus is talking about another time where really terrible things are going to happen. And the transition that he's talking about is the end of the temple. Okay, and that's where some of this can make sense, with the fact that everything will be darkened and the light will be dimmed, and that stars will be falling out of the sky, because the temple was a microcosm for the entire cosmos on earth, if you will. And so when in the temple, you would see the stars of the sky and this sort of thing that were painted on there. And so, if you will, it's like the world that the people know is going to fall. And that does happen in 70 AD, which is why Jesus says, this generation will not pass away until you've seen these things occur. Okay, and that's essentially what happens. A generation, which is usually 40 years after Jesus, in 70 AD, the temple does indeed fall. And this is necessary because now the new temple is the body of Christ, okay? It's the church. And so this is something that's catastrophic. And according to Josephus, or not Josephus, I'm sorry, one of the Eusebius, one of the early church historians, because early Christians were reading this gospel and reading these readings as was meant to by Christ, when 70 AD, when things started to happen, they left Jerusalem so that they wouldn't, this war that happened in 70 AD, a lot of Christians weren't killed because of these things. That's not to say that some of this doesn't have to do with the end times, but it also has a lot to do with what was going to happen in the more recent history of the times they were written. We should always have the end times in mind, of course, because we never know when Jesus is going to come back. We never know when our time may be up, when we go to meet Jesus. And so, yeah, it is true that we should always have, we should always be living devoutly and with love of God, because one, that's just the right thing, no matter how much time we have left. But also, when we read things like this, we have to read them within their historical context, and to know where these things are heading. And so I would just say, as we approach the table of the Lord today on this last, the 33rd Sunday of Ordinary Time, let us ask God for the ability to discern the times and to know what to do when the time is necessary, so that one day we may see Jesus in heaven face to face.